So today's task on the Freelander 2 is to replace the prop shaft. I originally took this off because I've been told that there's excessive play in the mounting points, and certainly it did look that way on the car. I have to say that the rubber on those look fine. However, I did take it across to a prop shaft reconditioning specialist near me called Bailey Morris. They do reconditioning, but they also do new. And they had a look at it, and did find out that when you twist this, and I'll clip in a video later, you get a knocking noise at this end, which shouldn't be happening, and it's fairly similar at the other end. So the view was it was life expired. So I purchased a GKN prop shaft off them. Mine is a 2008 Freelander 2, and somewhere on here is the Land Rover car part number, upside down, but LR006959. I think these did vary a bit depending on your model, so be careful you're buying a new one, just make sure you get the right thing. And in terms of the car, I've got it on 2-ton axle stands. Each stand has a 2-ton capacity, but I've also got some stacks of wood underneath just to be on the safe side. So I'm always a bit dubious about lying under a car with it all up in the air, which gives me enough working space under here. And then what we've got to do is, if I can get under, we need to drop this bracket here, which is the sort of front support, if you like, for the prop shaft. It actually also holds on the front exhaust mounting bracket, so you need to drop that off. You need a 10mm socket to get those fixings out of there, and then towards the back we've got a second bracket, again M10 size socket needed to get that off. It also acts as a front fixing for the hanger for the fuel tank. So there's sort of there's a bolt there that does a combined job, if you like. So we need to drop that away, and then we can feed the prop shaft in, clamp those back up, leave it there loose, and then I'll bring you back perhaps when we're at that stage, or even when I've dropped the brackets off, so you can have a quick look at the brackets. So this is with the two brackets dropped off. The front one, you see, there has a small heat shield on it, whereas the rear one is just a plain bracket. So these are the holes that are shared with the frame that secures the fuel tank. So I'm going to give these a bit of a clean up. There's obviously a bit of dirt and debris on those, otherwise they're looking pretty good nick. And then in terms of under the car, so that's the exhaust bracket just dropped away. There's enough support on the exhaust not to worry about propping it in any way when you do this, so it's fairly straightforward. You'll see at the front there, sorry for the slight sort of glary reflection, the end of the front differential, and then there's the front of the Haldex unit at the back there, which is where we're going to be connecting onto, and this is the end bracket of the fuel tank support. And again, there's enough other fixings and hangers there that the fuel tank doesn't need supporting when you drop it, where it certainly didn't need it on mine. So that's fairly straightforward. So I'm going to have to try and then manoeuvre the prop shaft temporarily up into the void, and then try and hold it up there while I get the brackets back in place, or at least a couple of bolts in each bracket, just to take the weight of it. So it's going to be a bit tricky because it's quite heavy. So we'll see how we go. So here we are back under the car with the new prop shaft partially in place. What I found I need to do is to thread it as far forward as you can in the engine bay at the front, in order to then be able to lift it up towards the back. So I'll just pan you around. So what I found was I could get the end of the shaft up between the bodywork and the exhaust pipe, hold it up in there with one hand, and then lift the racket in place at the back here, just get that partially tightened up. So it's just sitting there loosely at the moment. And then what I think next is to do the same with the front bracket before I then start to pull the prop shaft around to get it in the right position to make the connections to the power transfer unit and the Haldex unit. So I'm not sure how successful this will be, but I thought I'd try and video part of this process. So I've got to get the support bracket up past the exhaust to support the front of the prop. And then just hold him up there long enough to get a few of these bolts started. So I'm not sure how well this will video, but the next stage before you secure the prop shaft itself to the support brackets is probably to manoeuvre these the end fixings into the Haldex and the power transfer unit, just so you've got a bit of movement there to aid getting that in. So it should just push up and then go forward a little bit. Sits into, there's like it's cupped the end of the Haldex unit, so that sits into there quite nicely. So this is a view looking forward now, front of prop shaft and the flange for the power transfer unit. So again, it's just a case of sliding that in there, and again there's a cup in there to slide that into. So I'll hold it in there for the moment before we, or while we wait to get the bolts and tighten that up a bit. So in terms of the fixing bolts, I've purchased new ones. The Haynes manual said you shouldn't reuse the old ones, so I don't want to take any risks. They're not too bad, they're just over £1.50, £1.60 plus VAT a bolt. Part number LR001193, and then pairs of the bolts go through these sort of half moon washers that clamp to the back of the flange of the prop shaft. I was trying to think of the purpose of these. I mean, they add a little bit of strength possibly, but I also wonder whether it's more that if the bolts came loose then these will rattle and give you some sort of warning perhaps. Not entirely sure. And they are a Torx head, so you'll need an E10 Torx socket to do those up. So that's the front connection to the power transfer unit bolted up. Just need to check the torque on them later. Sorry I couldn't video it, it was too fiddly, my arm kept getting in the way of the camera. but that went, yeah, fairly smoothly, to be fair. Some of the bolts are slightly awkward to get to if your transmission is locked, so I ended up using a sort of flexi head extension to the socket to get into the top one. Other than that, pretty straightforward. So this is with the rear connection partially fit. You can see how they you can see that second. You see how the half moon washers go round. I did have to put the screwdriver through one of the holes initially to try and get the thing lined up, which wasn't the easiest. Look at the rest of them now that I've got a couple in. Tight, it should go in okay. You just repeat that process round. So some of them are a bit more fiddly to get to than others. So that's with the rear bolts to the Haldex unit installed. There's just one, the one that you can't see in the image at the moment, that I can't reach from around this side, so I'm going to have to put the car in neutral and just spin it slightly to get to that last one, and then torque those up. Then once you've done that front and back, you can then secure the prop shaft to the mounting brackets. So that's not focusing very well. So it's those two bolts there that go through from the car bracket to the bracket on the prop shaft, and that one in the image there you can't get a socket on because the exhaust is in the way, so you need to use a ratchet spanner or a spanner for that one, but the other ones do have okay. So here we are with the process finished. I had to put the car in neutral to allow me to spin the prop by hand slightly, just to allow me to get all of the bolts done up tight. It's not easy to get a torque wrench on, to be fair. You only need 40 Newton meters, so I kind of judged, well, I torqued one that I could get to, and then use that as a judge to just wrench the others up with the socket. So front bracket re-secured and prop shaft bolted in place here and here. And then similarly the rear bracket and the connection to the Haldex in the distance there. So that's not gone too badly. I've been under here now 2 or 3 hours, I suppose, but a lot of that's faffing around with the video in, so it's relatively straightforward to do, in fairness, as long as you've got safe ways of supporting your car. So I hope that's useful.